This is RVA Trial Lawyers, Richmond's trial lawyer podcast. Trial lawyers do not become great overnight. It takes persistence, a relentless work ethic, a willingness to learn from mistakes, a burning passion for the craft, an authentic self, and the courage and vulnerability to enter the arena time and again. Those who become great trial lawyers also become great people. Through their work, they grapple with the realities of the human condition, and in the process, cultivate character, principle, integrity, leadership, strength, compassion, and perseverance. RVA Trial Lawyers exist for Richmond's trial lawyers. Through this podcast, we hope to learn from them, support them, connect them, inspire them, and preserve their work for future trial lawyers.
All right, we're back, RVA Trial Lawyers, and today we've got Ben Glass and Brian Glass. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to have you. Ben, would you mind starting off and introducing yourself?
So thanks, Sharif. Thanks, Neil, for having us on. So I've been practicing law for 41 years. I grew up in Northern Virginia, worked for another law firm for about 12 years to start my career, then had this brilliant idea to start my own firm, which was really hard, even though I was a good lawyer and getting good results. And here we are, I don't know, probably 25 or almost 30 years into our own practice. Brian is here. It's a 50-50 partner with me. And mainly, we like to say, we're playing the game of life and playing the game of business. We happen to be lawyers. We're really good lawyers. And so we're mainly having fun with doing the law stuff and doing coaching to lawyers.
Thanks, Ben. And the thing that I love about Ben Glass is he loves what he does. It's clear that that's the case. And he and Brian are big proponents of helping other lawyers also find the path to actually not just enjoying what they do for a living, but enjoying their lives. So with that, Brian, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, Sharif, because not that I don't know the story, but you find these parallels, right? So Ben worked somewhere else for 12 years. I got out of law school in 2008. I worked at a general practice firm for about 4 months. But in the second firm that I joined, I was there for 10 years before coming over and joining my dad in 2019. So my practice is primarily plaintiff side auto accidents. It's all injury, but it's primarily auto accidents. Although I saw on LinkedIn, you said, don't say accident, say crash. So I'm working on that. Together, we're running Ben Glass Law and a company called Great Legal Marketing, where we take that love of teaching lawyers how to run better practices and practices that serve their lives. And we teach the solo and the small law firm community exactly how to do that.
Awesome. And I also don't want to forget this, Brian, but correct me if I'm wrong. You had a hell of a verdict a few years ago, right? It was during or around the Johnny Depp trial. Is that right?
Thank you. Yeah. No, started on the same day as the Johnny Depp trial. And I told our panel of jurors, good news, bad news. Good news, I'm going to get you out of here in 3 days. Johnny Depp took, I think, 8 weeks. Bad news, the actors, metaphorically and actually are not nearly as good looking in this courtroom as they are just down the hallway. So yeah, I over a 3-day span, I tried a drunk driving, a car crash case to a $3.4 million verdict. And which largely was like a great client and completely terrible defendant. Average lawyer in a case like that, I'll get you the $3.4 million.
I don't know about that. It's not easy to get into that seven-figure world. So, well, that's awesome. Well, again, really happy to have you both on here. So you all not only have the Ben Glass Law Firm, which, if I remember correctly, primarily personal injury, auto crashes, right? Not accidents, crashes. Yeah. And then long-term disability appeals. Is that primarily what you all
litigation in this niche of ERISA long-term disability? Yeah.
And then on the other side, you also have Great Legal Marketing, right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about...
It has us. It has us,
right,
depending on the day.
Can you talk a little bit about what Great Legal Marketing is?
Yeah, sure. So I started that about 20 years ago when my mentor said, hey, you're using outside the box marketing to help market the law firm, which is very young. And back then we're talking about, Sharif, how to build a better Yellow Page ad, right? And there's other lawyers who would want to know this. So when I introduced Great Legal Marketing, there was virtually nobody else in this space teaching lawyers how to run a business and how to enjoy your life doing that. Today, there's obviously a lot of organizations, a lot of conferences, but we take the solo and small firm lawyer who's doing up to about $5 million in total top line revenue, so anywhere maybe down to $500,000 to $5 million, and help them figure out what would be great for my life. Like, what kind of life do I want? Great. What kind of practice serves that life? Great. What kind of client serves that practice? Great. Okay, now let's think about the marketing that brings that client in. And we do it in that order. And as you and I were talking before we went live, unfortunately, so many lawyers today in law school spending a bundle of money never ever get introduced to this concept of solo and small firm lawyers. They are the backbone of the country, right? And you can build a really fun practice, a profitable practice, one that you and your team like to go to, on Monday.
Yeah, no, it's great. And as I told you before we started, it was amazing to me that in law school, I mean, the work that I do, personal injury trial work for the most part, I didn't even know it existed, right? Like, didn't even know it was an option. And the idea that you could be a part of a small firm, make a good living, do good work, enjoy the people you work with, and really kind of fill your cup in every aspect is something that was foreign to me. And to be fair, it was somewhat of an accident for me to even really stumble into it. What motivated you all to not just help other lawyers, but to go all in and create a separate company and to hold your annual summit every year? I imagine it takes up a significant amount of time, especially considering you all also maintain a pretty busy law practice.
It does take up a lot of time. I think it's just, for me, it's just part of, hey, it's something that we're good at and we like doing. So if you can find that space in your life, look, Sharif, if I had to take, and I did this for many years, like you take depositions, you do trials, you take depositions, you answer interrogatories. For me, if I had to still be doing that 41 years in, and that was my whole 40 hours a week, I'd be going crazy. So getting on stage, helping lawyers go, wow, that's cool. I hadn't thought about that. Wow, that's neat. Let me go try that. That's just fun for us. And the cool part is the people that we attract to work in the law firm are kind of like that. And we learn how to serve the client and deliver a great client experience. So the law firm runs really smoothly. And we've proven as the lawyer doesn't have to do every single step of a case. And the clients are thrilled and we get good results here.
That's awesome. So in many respects, your law firm is set up in a way that if the lawyer is gone for a week or two, the law firm's chugging along just fine.
Brian's going to tell you about his vacation plans for next summer
Well,
now.
Brian, I follow you on LinkedIn, and if I remember correctly, you have a goal to take a month off. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's getting trimmed to 3 weeks, but we're going to Italy next summer. My wife and I, we have 3 kids. They're 11, 9, and 6. And we're kind of in that sweet spot where like we can take them and they won't eat too much, but they also won't be like terrible to be travel companions. So we're taking advantage of that. We booked one leg of the trip and I haven't booked the coming back flight yet. It'll be 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, can you take a week or two without the lawyer being there? 100% you should be able to. And what we have really done is design a practice where we are involved in the top 10% of decision-making and activity on a case. And we've educated and empowered the team to do just about everything else from case selection, like really clear case selection. Right? Are we ultimately the ones saying yes or no to cases? Yes. But our intake and our sales team has gotten really good at saying, Brian and Ben can help with this case or no, we can't. And we're just, signing off on that. And then I think the dirty secret of plaintiff's work is like the vast majority of the actual work that goes on in the office can be done by somebody who's not a lawyer. And the client experience, if you focus on like, how can we make this experience really, really good? Then they do not care that it's not a lawyer, right? What's the number one complaint about dealing with a law firm? The lawyer never calls me back. Well, if the staff is the one making all the calls and the staff is the one having the relationship with the client, then you don't have that problem. And so many lawyers will hear that and will think, oh, there's no oversight, running a mill. What about the client? And I think if you look at our results on our Google reviews, it's just not been the case. Clients would rather have their problem get solved with a lawyer signing off on the solution than actually have the lawyer embedded in every.
No, that makes sense. I remember a while back, for whatever reason, I was on Cooper Hurley's website and they were advertising positions for negotiators. And I was like, wait, that's interesting, right? Because you're right. You don't need a bar license to negotiate with an insurance company, at least certainly pre-suit, right? So do you all have assembly line process for your personal injury cases?
We've done that in the past with mixed results. And for the lawyer sticklers out there, like always with the lawyer signing off on the authority and the client signing off on the authority, right? But then the instruction to the negotiator or the case manager position, some law firms will call it, is, hey, the authority is $25,000. Go get as much as you can, right? And it's the exact same thing that the insurance company is doing on the other side, right? The adjuster has an authority that some manager somewhere has signed off on. So what we've done is built a system where we have guardrails around cases where every 30 days, client's getting a check-in at certain, kind of medically important, at least to an insurance company, timelines. There's a lawyer who's putting eyes on all the medical records and thinking about, should this person who's seeing a chiropractor or a physical therapist, they go see an orthopedist or a neurologist. Hey, that treatment's getting a little bit long. Like, let's make sure that doesn't happen. And it's not like, okay, let me send you to all 4 of my doctors to build up a claim. Let me protect you from the mistakes that some people make if they don't have a lawyer.
Got it. Makes sense. And I imagine by doing it this way, you then free up yourself to be able to really focus on the tasks that you need to do and that I expect you probably enjoy doing. If there's a case that's going to be tried, you would probably rather spend your time preparing for that trial versus being immersed in all the other things. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. How can you take a case that's worth $150,000 and make it worth $250,000? Or how can you take a case like my law partner Lisa did earlier this year with $300,000 in coverage and uncover another $100,000 policy living in someone's house, right? And if the lawyer is deeply embedded and I have to return all the client phone calls and all the adjuster phone calls for all the case status updates, then the lawyer can't be doing that high level strategy thinking, at least not at scale.
Do you see other firms starting to kind of embrace that model?
So I think the answer to that question is yes. We see them in our mastermind groups. We see them in the lawyers who come to our conferences. And so to a certain extent, Brian and I live in this bubble of having surrounded ourselves with lawyers who would understand this conversation that we're having right now, would not be offended or repelled by it, but would recognize, Sharif, that at the end of the day, what we're paid to do as lawyers is to use our creative genius to help efficiently either solve the problems, the client's problem, or help them with the opportunity, whichever that is. That's really what we're paid to do. And so, do you see this? Yeah, look, there's the GLM summit, right? And there's 15 summits between, we say, August 31 and Thanksgiving in Vegas, right? Just on this subject for all different sizes of firms. So I think there is this emerging trend that it's okay to think of the law firm as a business that supports your lifestyle, and then to run that law firm, Sharif, in a way that attracts great talent. Because if the owners are happy and the talent that you attract is happy, then the clients are going to be well served. They just are. Versus, as you've heard me say before, sort of bar association way of this is that the lawyer has to become the self-sacrificial lamb, and the lawyers, we kind of make it sound like the client expects the lawyer to handle my case, to be the one who does the whole case from beginning to end. And that's just wrong. And that's why Ben has written incessantly and spoken from the stage about why the bar has this all wrong with the lawyer wellness program. So we're proving that this model works. And there are other thought leaders in this space who are proving that this model works. And it makes for a better society, because now we believe that we are raising up the, how our clients view us. Like, lawyers aren't jerks. They're not too expensive. They do return calls. And so Brian's right. It's mostly all about the client experience. We're good lawyers, so there's no excuse to not be a good lawyer. Continually be trained, get your reps in on trial if you're a trial lawyer, do all that stuff. No excuse. You have to be excellent there. But it's a value add when you surround yourself with a team who is deeply behind the mission of the law firm, who works hard, asks curious questions, and again, they like coming to work. And if you look around at most law firms, or if you go to like a paralegal event, and ask the paralegals, do you really like where you're working? You get looks.
Ben, hearing you talk about loving what you do, you were able to find joy and fulfillment in the work that you do. And not only were you able to find it, it seems like it trickles down from the top down, right? From the higher ups, the executive leadership team, both you and Brian. Why have not other firms found that formula? Because not a lot of attorneys that we talk to find that same joy. I mean, before you got on, based on just the way you're talking about what you do, I could feel that passion and love for it. I don't see that in the greater bar. Why is that?
Yeah, I don't know, Brian. I'll go short and then Brian will go long. It's because, in part, it's because the DNA that gets you into law school is an issue spotting negative DNA. As once you're in law school, nobody is talking about your happiness. They're talking about you being a slave. Once you're in the profession, nobody is talking about your happiness. They're talking about put the client at the top of the mountain and, bend over for the client at all levels. That's why you get sadness. And nobody is talking, not many people am talking, and Brian is talking about, no. This can be win-win. I'm happy, team's happy, client's thrilled. Gee, let's build that. But you don't hear that in law school. No one's running classes on this in law school. And I often say, how many of your law school professors would you pay thousands of dollars to go watch them run a conference on how to build a law firm after you graduated from law school? Exactly zero. So I might weigh in on this as well.
I mean, so it's funny because you got started on that answer and I'm thinking, I don't actually know an awful lot of unhappy lawyers, which gets back to you and I are kind of in this bubble with our groups of happy, successful, although doesn't seem to be a requirement to happiness, material success. Lawyers who are running practices that they actually like. We just don't spend a lot of time with unhappy lawyers. And so my suggestion, if you look around it and the only lawyers that you know are unhappy and they're complaining about the practice and whining about their clients who haven't paid them and moaning about the judge, find a different set of lawyers to hang out with.
And Brian, you bring up a great point, but when you look at the practice of law, it has, among all professions, one of the highest rates of depression, highest rates of substance use disorder, and pretty high in suicide too. So when you start to see that, and I'm listening to Ben talk about running successful business, I mean, clearly just from the last 18 minutes, I can tell he's a great leader. And you need great leaders to run a business first and a law firm second. And that's what it seems like. If you run a great business, then everything will trickle down from it. And has that been y'all's model?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we've been running our business on EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System traction model, for about 4.5 years. And really, when we started, one of the first things that you do is you say, what's your core purpose for being in business? And the first couple of ideas that came to our mind were things like fighting the insurance companies, sticking up for clients, battling for the little guy. And then I think we gave ourselves permission to say, you know what, actually we're in business to run a great company where we're happy and where employees are happy. And if those two things are true, then of course the clients are well taken care of. So we got away from that. And one of the things that we said, Niall, is we are good at running and leading and managing a business, and we just happen to be lawyers.
So here's another thing, Niall. If you go and ask other professions, they'll all tell you that they have the highest rates of suicide. You look in the dental industry and lawyers. One of the things I say is that lawyers need to stop whining. We make money with our brains. We're sitting here in an air-conditioned and a heated building. The folks that we represent, Amazon drivers, people with physical jobs, people that go to retail, work 40 hours, they have harder lives. They have much harder lives than we do. And so a little bit, lawyers need to just pause every morning and have some gratitude for the fact that, yes, there are pressures. Yes, there are deadlines. Yes, there are mean lawyers and mean judges out there. There's no doubt about any of that. But by and large, look what we get to do. Make money with our brains, sitting in nice offices, writing and thinking, by and large. So if we kind of start from that framework, boy, the rest of the day just looks great. And it's not to say that this isn't hard at times. You want to bang your head up against the wall, for sure, which is why having like-minded lawyers around you who can call you on your BS when you're whining, who can help you find that next hire that you're having trouble finding, who can help you develop a system because, hey, here's our system for doing this and let me share it with you. Like the lawyers that we tend to surround ourselves with are sharing, giving lawyers. Like we have in our mastermind group, PI lawyers right here in Northern Virginia, quote, our competitors. But we're all doing a different flavor of things, and nobody is Ben, nobody is Brian, no one is Sharif, no one's Ayab. We're all different. And so that's a different attitude too than the DNA of most lawyers who have secrets, won't share, and certainly won't share with their own competitor right down the street. We think that's all BS. We are happy that we'll open up everything to anybody. That's just the way we think because it's brought us more than it's cost us.
You know what's interesting about that is one thing that I've really enjoyed about the plaintiff's personal injury bar, at least among the people who like really take trial work seriously, is that the phrase "a rising tide lifts all boats" is a common refrain. You've got people sharing all types of stuff.
You know, if I help you on a case or you get a case because of a tactic that we've taught in marketing, it doesn't take anything out of my pocket, right? Unless you and I have 100% corner on the Virginia car crash market, then you doing well isn't taking away from me. And so I think the firms that are a little bit more mill-like maybe have the idea that it is commoditized and that if they share anything, then somebody else is going to figure out the secret sauce. And then they're going to be exposed as like not actually being very successful.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm sure they're probably their Achilles heel is like they're not actually making that $150,000 case a $250,000 case. And they're not actually putting the time in to really get into litigation if need be. One of my good friends who did a stint in big law, I forgot the firm, but we were chatting not long ago about the leadership issues that you see in law firms. And he said that in most law firms, you see the leadership is there by accident, meaning that in order to advance at a law firm, you prove your merit as a lawyer. Yet when you advance, you are less needed as a lawyer and more needed actually as a leader. Yet that skill set has never been developed. And so that is a cycle unto itself, right? And then creates these environments where you were at such and such big firm for 9 months and you left. Yeah, that happens to everybody, right? Which is insane to me because you'd think from a business perspective, how much money are those firms losing just in attrition and recruiting and all that? And if so, do you see a fix for that?
I think it's impossible to change a big law firm, like any big company, right? And so what we do see is lawyers who leave big law to come start their own firms and get, teaching from us and coaching from us or others like us. But here's what Brian and I think he would agree, we find interesting is that even as Ben Glass Law continues to grow in terms of people under roof, revenue, number of cases that come in the door, like each time he and I then have to play in a level that we've never played at before. And so there is new learning. We invest a lot of money, Brian and I and the firm, in coaching for ourselves. So we have personal business coach, we have corporate business coach, people who, even outside of law, who are there to help us learn. How do you manage a bigger team? How do you develop mid-level managers? How do you quote scale? And again, these are things that they don't teach you in law school. And it's just necessary. If you're growing, you are continually moving into a space where you have never been before. And you got to learn it one way or the other. You can learn it by experience, for sure. You can learn it by surrounding yourself or getting at least somebody who's done this bigger, better, faster than you have, right? Or who's worked with a number of companies that are bigger, better, faster than you, so that our EOS coaches, for example, bring in lessons learned from other industries.
Sharif, if you've looked at Ben Glass Law and you look at their bios, you're going to find a director of happiness.
I know.
How many firms have I gone out and looked at? And that was one of those things that, that's when I knew it starts with great leadership. And great leadership that wakes up every morning, looks in the mirror, and the reflection that they see in the mirror is the same reflection that the whole world sees. That's who, started with Ben Glass, and it seems like that. He shows a great human, and everyone sees that great human, and he does great job, and it trickles down. And seeing a director of happiness, I'm like, I don't see that. So tell me, what does a director of happiness do for your firm?
It's not just the people that work here, it's our referral relationships, and it's adding an extra layer of touch to the clients as well. And so it's an interesting backstory because Susie was here in a different position. It wasn't totally a great position for her. She was stressed out. And I don't even know who had the idea to kind of create this. So formal title, director of, referral relationships, I think. But everybody in the building and every FedEx and Amazon and UPS person who delivers here, they stop by our office to get replenished with snacks, with sodas, because they just know that our people are bright and friendly. And so, yeah, it was a good idea then. And again, Susie every year is growing into a higher and higher level. We ask her to do more and more complicated things, particularly with our referral relationships with lawyers and non-lawyers who send us cases and to whom we send cases when they're lawyers outside of the stuff that we do. And so having someone who's just can focus on that all the time, like it's fabulous.
So you said in their culture, and I think the mistake that most firms make when they're trying to build culture is that they think it's like a ping pong table and a pizza party on Fridays, right? Culture really is the shared mission and a shared goal. And again, you could build a shared mission and goal around taking every last dollar out of the insurance company's pocket or taking every case to trial and deposing lying defense experts. The shared mission and the shared goal that we've built is creating an excellent customer service experience, right? And so having a director of happiness who, part of the things that she does is if we ever have a client who has a surgery or we have a client that had a death in the family, and she's in charge of restocking the gift corner of our office, right? We send those little hospital grippy socks to clients that have had surgery. We have a brownie kit that goes out to people that have had death in the family. So I just had a client that had a baby. She went out, she sourced a newborn outfit. We send that out, right? So all of those little touch point things that just so many firms don't think about, which is why when you have a client who was in a crash 5 years ago and you say, who was your lawyer? Most clients can't tell you who that was.
Right. Yeah. And I've heard both of you speak on this issue. I mean, your easiest group to market to are the people that you've already helped, right? Versus spending so much time and money on trying to acquire new leads, new relationships.
Most of the clients who come here come because a human being started a chain and they mentioned the firm or me or Brian or someone else in the firm. That potential client then may go through all of our digital properties and check us out, and most of them do. But there are human beings out there who know our story and who trust us enough to say, I don't know if they can help you or not, but give these guys a call because they will try to help you and they're trustworthy. And so, you build 1,000 people around you who can say that about you. Don't even have to know what kind of lawyer you are, but can say, talk to Sharif because he is trustworthy. Talk to Nael because they are, the Abe Lincoln, right, of the 2024. That's what we're trying to build. And we've been, I think, pretty successful about, and be able to do that.
Well, and
no big scandals.
Yeah, we see that a little bit also with your marketing. I know, Ben, you spend a lot of time and you have videos talking about refereeing, right? And you guys are doing stuff that's not traditional marketing.
We have an 8-page print newsletter that goes out to our past and current client base and all of our referral sources. And it doesn't have more than a paragraph about the law in all of the 8 pages that go out every month, right? So people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so our whole goal with that is to reinforce that somebody who's hired us has made a great hiring decision, that they've hired a firm that has some personality. And so you'll see that most of the articles in there are actually written by the team members about the things that they have going on in their life, because I can't fill 8 pages of stuff every single month. And then actually our most popular page of that whole thing is the recipe page, right? Every month there's something that came out of the kitchen of some team member here that is getting clipped and hung up on the refrigerator of a client somewhere. So it's all about creating a connection that's outside of, have you solved the problem with my car crash?
Brian, talking about connections, we often talk about the trial and building connections with the jury. And when I teach at the law school, I tell my students, hey, don't come across as a lawyer. No one likes lawyers. Come across as a human being where people can actually connect with you. You want to be just this simple being that people can connect with and that they can trust. So clearly you've done it in your business where people are actually hiring other humans that they can relate to and other humans that they can connect to and other humans that care about them and that show them with, gifts that the director of happiness puts out. Let's talk a bit about trial work. Your dad talked about the love for trial work and how that's morphed now into creating, successful law firms. For you, do you still have that love for trial work? Or when we say the trial work, we're talking about jury trials, or is it now also more into management and building future successful leaders?
I love trial work. I don't love all the stuff that goes into before you walk into a courtroom. No, but I think your message to law students is beautiful. I'm not showing up here as a lawyer. I'm showing up here as somebody who's trying to help a problem get solved for this person that's sitting next to me. And you, jury, are the citizens that we need to help solve their problem and restore justice in the world. And so the more that you use Latin phrases and 5-syllable words, the worse off you're going to be. But if you can show up just as a normal human being, explain as though you're talking to a fifth grader without making them feel like a fifth grader, your client's problem, the better off you're going to be.
Here's the interesting thing. So most of my work is in federal district court, arguing to judges, and in courts of appeals around the country, arguing to panels of appellate judges. It's the same thing. It's like, what's the story I can tell that's wrapped around why we have the protections of ERISA or of a particular statute? And I don't know why you're laughing, Brian, but
go ahead, finish, and then I'll tell you why.
You can go to the website, you can listen. We have all the oral arguments up there. It's just, we're going to have a discussion as 3 or 4 smart people, and it is about storytelling and why this is important.
So his last oral argument, he created office bingo cards and handed them out so that people could check off when he used certain phrases. And the one before that, I think he's probably the only person in the history of the Third Circuit to incorporate the phrase "hi ho, it's off to work we go" in an appellate argument.
That's beautiful.
I represented a coal miner. We had a pool going in the office of when I would be able to get that phrase in, and it was in the rebuttal part, and somebody won a prize.
Beautiful. So it's funny that we're talking about this. In law school, you're very much taught the law is the law, we follow the law, all that. At the end of the day, like, emotion is such a big thing, and us as humans make decisions largely based on emotion, but then we tell ourselves, no, it was based on reason. Have you all heard of the analogy, the elephant and the rider? I think David Haidt wrote that book. The idea is that rider's reason, the rider represents reason, the elephant represents your emotions. And so the rider has the illusion that he's in control, but we all know he's not. And what I've always tried to, and I know people have looked at me like I'm crazy, but like, I'll go into general district court on a case and I'll have a PowerPoint presentation. I'll have a handful of witnesses. I'll make sure I do a legitimate opening statement similar to what I would do in front of a jury, because I believe that the judge is a person too, and hell, they want to be entertained, right? Especially if they're in GDC. If we can take a step back and say, you know what, I don't need to be a lawyer. I just need to come tell the best story, and chances are it will go our way.
I'm sure you both have heard the name Jerry Spence. You may not have heard the name Mo Levine. I grew up on Jerry Spence and Mo Levine cassette tapes, and it was all about that. It was about listening to the vibe in the courtroom and responding to the vibe, and just remembering that every single person in that courtroom, from the clerk to the juror to the judge to all the witnesses, are human beings, and trying to make that connection. So if you guys ever get a chance to scrape up some stuff on eBay from old stuff from Jerry Spence or Mo Levine, like, I think you will enjoy it.
I think Sharif is a big Jerry Spence guy.
He is. He went there actually over the
I've
summer.
got all the books and everything. Literally right before you made that comment, I pulled up a Jerry Spence quote, which I'll read. Give me a frightened young woman standing with shaking knees before the jury, one who cares to the core for her client, one who will show who she is, honest, afraid, involved, and caring, and I'll give you a lawyer who will win against the best heads and the quickest wits. That woman is credible, and the jury feels it and trusts her. Jerry Spence. They don't teach that in law school.
No, they don't, because you wouldn't need fancy professors and books then.
That's right. Right. Now and I were giving a presentation with Jeff Frederick next month, right now, on voir dire. Yes. And we had a prep meeting yesterday with Jeff about it. And it was amazing to talk about the different styles of jury selection. Niall and I believe Jeff Frederick's the same way, we're proponents of yes, we want to not have the jurors who this is just not a good case, a fit for them, right? But apart from that, we want to build a tribe. We don't necessarily want them to like us, but we want them to trust us.
And here's another thing they don't teach in law school. You are the power in the courtroom. You are the authority, even above the judge. And I know everybody will say, no, the jury will look to the judge. I think there's a space for the trial lawyer to be the authority in the courtroom by everything that you do there. And the cool thing that I want lawyers who are listening to, especially young lawyers, to know is that there's a space for you. You have your own unique set of gifts, talents, and interests, your own story. And yes, there are lawyers you're going to try case against who are more experienced than you are, but nobody could ever try the case against you as well as you could try the case against you, because you know where all the warts are. And so that's something for young lawyers just to remember as you're going into your first few trials, first few years of trials, which are harder to do. I mean, I tried a lot of cases when I was young. I think it's just harder today. You're going to walk in that courtroom thinking everybody else is smarter than me and more experienced. And it's just not true. They may be more experienced, but they're not smarter. And you do what Jerry Spence says, and you be you and care for that client and talk to that group of either a single judge or a group of jurors as human beings, and don't try to BS them. And you can play and you can win at this game for sure.
And just to follow up, you can have fun doing it too, right?
And have fun doing it. Yeah. Yeah. That's the other thing is like, go do some hard things. Like go get your butt kicked a couple times, right? Like Brian and I, we talk to our younger lawyers. You're like, we think everyone's watching you, judging you, going to think about it. No, go lose some cases. Go try some cases that are hard cases. Rather than take the stupid offer, just go do it, because otherwise you're never going to learn and have the experience of having people beating up on you. And there's a place for having people beating up on you. And in courtrooms that I think young lawyers are just missing that experience. And now I sound like the old guy in the room.
That is a real issue though. Well, Ben, we certainly want to respect your time. So thank you both for joining us. This has been a real pleasure. I'm a big fan of both you guys. I love watching you guys on LinkedIn and love looking at the GLM stuff. And it's just the message that you all have are the good one, that you can enjoy what you do and it's okay to also have a life as a lawyer. So
Brian, thank both of you. But before you get off, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, you're sitting with your kids and you're telling them about your father. And how would you describe your father? I want to end, and just because it's important, this podcast is to preserve the voices of the greats. And clearly your dad's voice is one of those greats. What will you tell your children about their grandfather?
So elite levels of optimism, high trust and faith in people and the ability of people to do good, and an exceptional leader of people and organizations.
And to end on that, we saw that in 45 minutes. So power to you too. Wish you nothing but the best. And we want to continue to see you both elevate the practice of law, not only in the Northern Virginia area, but Virginia as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to RVA Trial Lawyers, Richmond's Trial Lawyer podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Camaraderie and mentorship are essential to success as a trial lawyer. For that reason, RVA Trial Lawyers maintains a LinkedIn group for Richmond's Trial Lawyers. We invite you to join the RVA Trial Lawyer community. Check out our website at rvatriallawyers.com for more information. Thanks again for listening. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the important work that you do.